Welcome back to Opinionated presents Hanging with Hicks. And today's guest, man, me and him go back since high school. He used to whoop me on the football field every now and then, but I got the best of him sometimes. He has his own business, Organized Guild, and he brings that inner peace that most of us need. Today's guest, Donald Meiser.
I think it's time that I welcome y'all to my show. I think it's time I welcome y'all. Come watch my victories, yo.
So when she says record audio, I'm going to clap, and then you just clap. That way she knows when to start recording. We think that's what she does, at least. Not nowhere near close.
Clap too?
Yeah, you can clap. No, but I was just messing with her. Like, we always say it wrong. We think we know what she does with it, but we're never right. Donald, man, look, it's been since your senior year of high school, man. Since I think we last saw each other. We might have saw each other one or two more times
passing
by. But, you know, man, tell the people a little bit about yourself, man. Because I know a good amount about you, but let the people know.
That's always a tough question. I'm not gonna lie to you. Born and raised Homestead, Florida. Currently, I'm a crisis counselor down in Monroe County. Went to school at three different schools in the span of 5 years. I went to HBCU, which I would say probably like the best thing I probably did in my freshman year was go to HBCU. Then I went from there to Arizona, then I ended up in Youngstown.
But, you know, we're gonna let the people get to that. But let's start off early childhood, man. Growing up in Homestead, Florida, how was that?
Kind of boring, because I was one of the introvert kind of guy. So I didn't really do much. Had a group of friends. We played video games all day. When No Mercy, the 1064 games, the wrestling games, and like sports games. And so my day was either home, playing with friends, Paul, Jocelyn. And just every day, same old thing.
Yeah, just being a regular kid.
Regular kid, not too much. Cause I know around me, around the area was parents really didn't want us to do much. Go on the street, hang with friends, cause go too far from home. Cause I wasn't able to leave the house by myself till about third grade. Cause
sound like me.
She was very tough on it. She was like, I had friends that lived across the street. Like apartment complex across the street, all I could do was watch them out back in my yard. Couldn't play with them and see them having fun. I was like, all right. But until I got to third grade is when I was able to walk down the street a little further to play with them, which was, I didn't get it, but in her mind it makes sense. But
yeah. I mean, so, you know, you go from Nintendo 64, being a regular kid. When did you get into football?
Older brother. 8 years difference. He always played sports, football, basketball, baseball, all into that. So I always looked up to him. So one of the main sports he played it was really good at was football. So I always knew when I get older, get in high school, play school at South Day, I'm gonna play football. And I had a knack for it. I was pretty good. I always wanted to be a running back. Crazy enough, I always wanted to be a running back. No Mercy. I'm Madden 99. Playing that first football game I played. Fell in love with the game. Fell in love with Cowboys. That's when I became a Cowboys fan. Just my brother, just being like trying to be like him. I want to be like him and stuff.
I mean, and having an older brother that's 8 years older, obviously, you know, you had to struggle. Like, he never let you probably win anything.
Well, he didn't even play with me. I was one of the kids where I try to hang out. I had to do tasks just to get his attention.
Just to prove that you were cool enough.
Yeah, just to hang out. He told me one time, he said in middle school, he's like around 8th grade, and I realized you were cool enough to hang with. I was like, that's hilarious. But not like it was always like seeing from afar, like because he had older friends, so he didn't always want to be one of the little brothers. But the times I was able to see him was always on the football field playing sports. So that's something that I was like, okay, I could do that.
And I mean, you get to South Day. Now, obviously, you say you wanted to play running back, but you're too big to play running back. I mean, you were a man child in high school. How does that transition from being, you know, a kid that's out there in the streets to now being one of the faces of a program like South Dade?
I'll tell you, that's compliment right there. I was a face.
Yeah, man, you was a face.
I would say, honestly, I remember even my ninth grade, I still wanted to play running back. But I realized when I seen the other guys, because first time I played organized sports was ninth grade. But seeing like the talent, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna make the team. I don't play if I try to play running back. But I would say it did help me with always trying to like playing street ball. I would always have to run. I was rely on my speed because I was always in the middle of size, like especially down South Florida where size never was a big thing. So I was big amongst my peers, but with my position wise,
you were small.
I was small. So that was always in that tough spot. So I always had to rely on my speed and athleticism to play. Even in college, I would have to rely on that to get me far. But I definitely like because street ball, you always play running back, you always want to score a touchdown.
Exactly. I mean, and like you mentioned earlier, you stated that your freshman year now transitioning from high school, being a high school football star, you get an opportunity to play college football. And going to college football, you get to go to a HBCU. Let us know, like, what was that HBCU experience was like and what HBCU did you go to? Because I went to Grambling State. So, I mean, I obviously know HBCU love, but just let us know a little bit about that.
Swag Pride.
Yep.
I went to Texas Southern.
Okay.
Texas Southern. I would say, honestly, see, I'm black, but I'm Haitian, right? So it's South Florida. Most people not know the difference between. It was a big
elaborate on that because I mean I understand because I'm from Miami, but let the people know who aren't from here.
It was a big thing down in South Florida. Like Haitian and black, they was seen as two different people. Fights. Just if we Haitian, you always get beat up, get robbed, and vice versa. So to the point where to protect himself, Haitian had to come out of the game. And before I went up to about middle school, where crazy twist happened. Everybody wanted to be Haitian. When rappers started talking about, I was cool with the Haitian in Miami. Then it was like, oh, it was cool again to be Haitian. So it was a big. But growing up, it was always that animosity going on, the tension in the air. But the thing that kept me safe was like having an older brother, kind of like people knew who he was, so people didn't mess with me. So I always had that protection going on through high school or middle school. But yeah, so even that it was kind of a pretty good experience. So at HBCU it was a big culture shock because everything was black. Yeah. So when I say country folks,
Africans, Haitians, regular blacks.
Like when I say like I had the stereotype for middle school or high school, you may have this a white person may have this stereotype, a Spanish person may have this stereotype. When you go to school with all black people and you see those personalities, everyone just realize, okay, we are not monolithic. We are multiple personalities, and it was like our awakening. I was like, okay, we are more than just like Homestead and Florida City. We more like. So that was a pretty cool experience. I wish I would have stayed for like the culture wise and the schooling, but the football team wasn't the best.
Y'all struggled over there.
When I say, we won 2 games my freshman year. The year before that, they won, I want to say 1 or 2 games. So the trend is there.
Yeah,
so
you had to get out of it. So leaving Texas Southern HBCU, where you're surrounded by all blacks, you end up going to Mesa, Arizona. Am I saying that right? Mesa, Arizona. How is that now going from Miami to Houston to now Arizona?
Another culture shock. West Coast. I always say when people say, "What do you think about Arizona?" I say, give you the West Coast vibe, but not to LA or California stereotype. But I was introduced to different culturally because even there, that's why I kind of fell in love with what ended up being my major, sociology. The study of the people. Met a lot of Polynesian cultures there, heavily Hispanic culture there, which was kind of used to down here. So it wasn't big change. But being in the South, more permanent South with Texas, then moving to the West Coast, seeing how people interact there was another learning experience in itself. So kind of like made me fall in love more with just studying and just observing and being a people watcher. If people say, well, watch the people, so it's one of the people pastimes. I'm just seeing how we interact and just fascinated me. So I would say moving. That's why I would give credit to like going to different places and and being in school there, you have to live there for a year.
Yeah.
So it worked out.
And they always say third time makes a charm. So you finally go from Texas Southern to Mesa, Arizona, to now you're at Youngstown State University.
Youngstown.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh man, Midwest. No, was it the Midwest?
Yeah,
Midwest. Seasons. I would say the best thing I love about Ohio was the seasons. Seeing fall, spring, winter, summer. Which is not, you don't see that much in South Florida. But I'll say Youngstown made me more who I am, because I was able to establish myself in a place for more than 1 year. Because I bounced back 1 year and the next year. So I would have been able to get identity or fit in that situation, or make myself fit in or learn more. So I was there for 3 years.
And what did you major in while you was in there?
At the time, I was a pre-med major until my fourth year, because I redshirted. I was a pre-med until fourth year, then I ended up being a sociology major, because a lot of my elective credits was in the sociology field, so it was easier to do that. But I say it was interesting, because I met, long life friends there.
Yeah.
Some people say college friends, you meet there, going to be long life friends for a long time. I met a couple of guys, a good group of guys there.
And then now, transitioning, because you're in college and you're somewhat still a kid. You're an adult, but you're a big kid because you don't have no responsibilities. You can kind of be as selfish as you want to be, but now you're thrown into adulthood. Ooh. And adulthood is real, honestly. But you've been playing football for 8 years. You pretty much think, okay, man, I'm putting myself in a situation where I can probably go to that next level. But when was that point where you realized, man, you know what? I'm not going to be in the NFL, so let me get this education.
Senior year, I would say, had a thought in my mind, probably first game. Like the first game we played Pitt. I was like, yeah, if I had a good game here, this can be the biggest team we play all year. Put my stats, man. I started bang. We played bad first half. It was like a 21-zip game. We came back second half 21, tied it up 21. So second half we played great. But personally, I didn't feel like I did enough to
set yourself away.
Yeah, and especially at being a smaller market. So then the year didn't really go out as we wanted the year before. Because year before we won the national championship. Yeah. Then this year we were kind of like favored to go back again. And I was like, okay, same year. If we go back, have a decent year, I'm gonna try to go. But say for sure, probably like the fifth, sixth game when we was like we kept losing games. I was like, yeah, I'm not. It's time to love being focused on school. Gotta start looking at like jobs or career path or what I want to do with my major now. But still, it took me a while to kind of like have a set, concrete on what I wanted to do. Even now, I'll say even after I graduated, it took me about a year or two to realize, okay, what I really wanted to do in life.
And then you move back home. I mean, I know for me, moving back home, I was like, it was a culture shock, like I would say, like because it's a difference. Time has went on. You almost think when you're in college, time stands still, but when you come back home and you realize, oh man, I've been away from home for 6 years. This is a whole different place. My school isn't the same. My friends aren't really technically the same. People that I grew up around aren't here anymore. How was that when you came back after so long?
I would say, like I said, I'm not really the most. I'm a show, but not really, don't have a lot of, I would say, close friends. So the only close friend I said when I came back was I had Paul. So and Paul was a relationship. So when your friend's relationship, his time is probably he had 1/3 of the time to spend on his own. So I probably seen Paul here and there. But most of the time I was on my own, and I realized like a lot of high school friends either went away, wasn't still back in town.
They got their own family, their own situation.
Yes, they're married, kids. You realize, oh man, this is adult life.
Yeah,
like kids, people who didn't went away. Like I was like about 23. So I have friends already had family, kids, 2 by then. I was like house. I was like, yeah. They don't got time for a single man. Yeah.
And then so you know, you come back home, but you realize like, okay, man, I might have one or two cool friends that I'm so with, but I have people around me that aren't here anymore. People have families, but now you're in the work field. And I mean, how did you come across your job where you're like, you know what, this is something I think that I might enjoy?
So when I said like studying people, understanding how to interact, when the opportunity of the mental health being big nowadays, and people focusing on it and doing more research and figuring out how to include those people suffering. So when I seen that, I thought about it as a learning opportunity to be in the work, really in the fit in the fire, pretty much. Because this job title was a crisis counselor. So most of the clients people deal with are people having crises with behavioral or mental suicidal ideations, thoughts of harming others, attempts. So having, so I thought, okay, if I get in the midst of that, I could learn firsthand. They have supervisors there, and I've been there 3 years so far. So that's kind of like something. Pretty much, I was one of anything that has human service and dealing with people as they think to add to my belt as expertise.
And I mean, having a job like that, I mean, you almost have to be like that shoulder that people have to cry on all the time, and you're pretty much almost observing everyone's pain. And I mean, but how do you get away from that? Like, how do you de-stress from a job like that?
You gotta have a coping skill. You gotta have something that you love to do. For me, always been anime. It's been mangas. So when I'm not home, when I'm home, I'm watching, reading anime on my phone, watching something on TV. This is just something to pass time, like not to dwell on what happened at work. Because you think about it too much, you carry work home, then you won't be no good to the people you work or you trying to serve.
Exactly.
So self-care is definitely key.
And I mean, like, you know, you talk about the self-care and the anime. I know that you're a big fan of anime, you and Paul both, because he had mentioned that on a previous episode. But, you know, speaking of anime, you know, you go into Organized Guild, which is your business. And tell us a little bit about that. Like, how did you get the name? What is the overall, you know, thing and theme of Organized Guild? Because I'm a member. I have my membership at the house. So let people know.
For Organized is the concept of combining like social work and fashion together. One of the work in the community, I always want to assist. So I thought of the way of how can individuals with different talents help and be a presence, like a mentorship or be a visual out there. Then comes with the fashion part aspect. I was into fashions, and out of the fashion part, it's the theme of anime. It's the fusion of it. So we're gonna give just a collection of trying to cultivate and inform youth about different topics, pretty much to empower them on certain different areas, on finance, on self-care, on what the importance of self-care, the importance of finance, the importance of community and being seen or being around others. So that's kind of where the idea came from, or what it is. I'm sorry, but as Organized Guild, it's just a simple form of social club. Social is another organized, is another for social, and guild was another for club, crew. So when I thought of guild had combined the anime kind of feel to it, and it kind of worked perfectly because like guild is a collection of artisans of people with different backgrounds come together in one location to broadcast or showcase their skills per se.
And I mean, Organized Guild, you know, that's a great concept, and I love even just, you know, being a member because it intrigued me because I didn't grow up really watching anime like that except for like Dragon Ball Z. You know, being black, you know, it ain't really even cool to even talk about anime. You say anime, everybody looking at you like you're kind of like the weird child almost. So it's like, how did you become comfortable in your own skin saying, you know what, man, I love anime and I'm gonna make this my brand?
Man, anime. When I said earlier, I've been inside kid pretty much my whole life. Watching cartoons. At that time, we didn't know those cartoons was technically anime. Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Digimon, like I said, Dragon Ball Z, all those things were shown on cartoons. So when I got around fifth, sixth grade is when I YouTube searching up with like other shows to watch, and then from sixth grade, I remember sixth grade summer when I literally said all I did sixth grade summer was watch Naruto series, Bleach series. I watched like 4 to 7 series just straight through that summer, and just kept doing it every day. And that's kind of, so it was a part of me. So it was never really like hard to like hide it, and because even back then with social being a geek or a nerdy kid, but I played
because it was sports. Like you played football.
So they kind of like, I mean, one time a friend of mine came up to me asking a question about, don't we think about Naruto, this scene, what's going on. And it was like after like a workout, we had a football workout.
We had the weightlifting.
A young kid, I think a ninth grader, I'm answering. He looked at me like, "You watch Naruto?" Like shocked. I was like, "Yeah." Like, but
like
now
just because you play football don't mean that you can't like anime.
But now it's different. Now like anime is everywhere, so it's easier to talk about it, or see, like every artist you see or every person celebrity you see watch it as a kid. Because now we are the adults at that age.
Exactly. And I mean, like, even when I got to college, I had teammates that were watching anime, and at first I'm like, do football players do that? And then I watched a couple episodes, and I'm like, it's not for me, but I get it. I understand where you can love it, and it doesn't matter who you are. Anybody, it's a TV show for anybody to love. But I mean, I'm such a big community activist. I love to give back to the community, and you do as well. I mean, what does the community of Homestead mean to you, just being from South Florida?
Oh man. So growing up in a poverty household, I grew up in a nonprofit. I grew around non-for-profit communities, organizations where they, without a community, like pretty much expand my vision. What was more than Homestead. So I realized I knew how important was supporting community leaders who is art to the community, because it's allowed opportunities to see what's more out there, right? Because I want to say the program I grew up with, Hicks, was able to go out to leave Homestead for the first time, go to Miami. They went to another program named Open House Ministry at the time. We left Florida. So
through those programs, you was able to see
more and be exposed to more, right? Because a lot of times it's about exposure. Right? And a lot of times when we ask kids, though, they don't really know it because they're not really exposed to it yet. They haven't had the opportunity to learn or fail in that environment, so they don't really know how to maneuver. So communities and being part of the communities give me opportunity to share my knowledge, what my experience, my wounds over the years, you would say. But it was, so that's pretty much what community, because it did so much to me, so I want to give back the same way.
Because I mean, oftentimes, people, we come from these communities where we have these programs and they mold us into who we are. But once we leave, we kind of forget about the programs that made us. And a lot of people, especially our age right now, it's not cool to be 26 years old, 27 years old, and you're, you working back in the community, giving back. Everybody looks at it like, when I tell people I'm back in Homestead, they're like, ew, why? And it's like, man, what do you mean, ill? Why? Like, this is where I'm from. This is where I was raised at. Like, you should feel some type of obligation to give back to your community as well. So it's like, with you saying that, it speaks volumes of not only who you are as a person, but, as a man. And I respect you for it. And I mean, that's why you're on this show, because I wouldn't even have anybody, sitting beside me who didn't almost have that same type of thought of giving back to the community. Because with people like you and I, yes, we went through South Dade, and you played college football. You won a national championship. I went through South Dade, and I won a state championship, but I was also to play college football as well. But us coming back, now these kids can say, oh, you know what? The only path isn't just the NFL. I can be more. I can go out here and go to school and get an education, and it's okay to come back home and give back to the people. So I commend you on that. I mean, Donald, man, I had to reach out to you when I was thinking about hanging with Hicks, because I was like, man, I would love to have this man on this show to tell his story. And I mean, you've done nothing but do that and share some hidden gems. And Organized Guild is going to be something that's going to be big in the future. And I'm glad that I was one of the first members, so when it does blow up, I can show people my piece of paper. But Donald, man, thank you for being here.
I appreciate for having me,
man. This wraps up another great episode of Opinionated Presents Hanging with Hicks. I am Joshua Hicks. This is Donald Meiser. Keep it hanging.
Hey, where I grew up from, we was having fun. We ain't get no fuss, we stay under the sun. We would chill at the beach, then we go watch the heat.